Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Tristan Barrett here, the digital storyteller, and I am super excited for this amazing conversation. You know how we do for Creative to Creative. We always get the best, the brightest, the dopest people to share a piece of their work with us, their minds with us, and their strategies with us. I think it's really important to have conversations, not just about what we do, but who we are and our approaches and how we got to where we are. So my next guest is one person that I really admire. I really think that she's dope. And when I say people are dope, it's not just a term of endearment. It's not just something that we say here. You know me. When I say people are dope, they really are dope. Now, Britney Jeanine, my apologies, is the CEO of the BJ Co Creative Collective. She does so many things. She's actually an amazing brand consultant. She does coaching. She works with creatives. She's worked with politicians, and she is from the Atlanta, Georgia area. She's killing it. Let's give it up for Britney Jeanine. How you doing?
Welcome. I mean, I'm super excited to be here, and I'm like, whoa, what kind of intro? Like, make me feel famous and things. Like,
I forgot one thing. That we do for all of our guests right here. Oh no, not that one. There we go. We gotta get some of that, that Caribbean flavor, because I'm from Jamaica. We gotta have the air. We gotta have the DJ air on there.
Yes.
So listen, Britney, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And I really do think that this conversation is going to be super dope, super engaging, because you're that type of person. I first actually met you, I think years ago. I think you were doing some work for a colleague of mine who was a photographer, and I saw some of your web work and some of your design work, and I was like, man, this girl's really dope. But beyond that, what I was really impressed about was your attention to not just making a nice, classy, beautiful looking website, but your attention to really pushing the creative to understand their brand and their voice behind the brand, So if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your history in terms of coming into this sort of creative space, first coming in as maybe a budding entrepreneur, a budding sort of creative person, and then now transitioning to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Britney Jeanine, like you said, and I've been an entrepreneur for over 12 years. That time has been amazing, but it's been stressful too. I think we don't keep it real about all the things that happen behind the scenes when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? But like you said, I'm based in Atlanta, but I'm a Florida girl. I'm from Port Orange, Florida.
Okay.
But, it's right outside of Daytona Beach. Yeah. So
okay.
Definitely my family and I, we are here in Atlanta. I've been married for almost 11 years, have an 8-year-old, and I just had a little man. He's about to be 4 months. So life is crazy over here. I'm sure you can imagine. But, to be honest with you, this has really been a journey. And so who I am and what I do today is not how I started. I really started, just trying to figure out what does it mean to be like this business owner, but I knew inside of me, I never was meant to work for someone else. I knew that. I always had that feeling in my heart, right? When I was in the midst of planning my wedding in about 2008-ish, I thought that I was really good at it. I was like, oh, I could do this for other people. I can make some money. So out of nowhere, I just, decided to be a wedding planner. Like, I didn't have any strategy. I didn't have nothing. It was just like, just go, girl, you can do this. Come be a wedding planner. So after having, 2 horrible clients and me not having any kind of system experience, anything put together, I was like, nope, this is not for me. Entrepreneurship is like over there. Like, let me go back and work. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I put entrepreneurship on the shelf, and then I had my daughter in 2012, picked up a camera because I always wanted to take pictures of her. She was changing every day. I felt like she was changing. So I'm like taking pictures. And before you know it, family was like, oh, these pictures of Taylor are amazing, Britney. You should think about becoming a photographer. So I was like, oh, okay. So slowly but surely, I became a photographer. I was shooting families and weddings and seniors and just doing the whole thing. But then I realized I really didn't like that either. Right. I was
by the way, now it makes total sense why all of your pictures on social, anywhere else are clean. They are clean.
I appreciate it. So I dibbled and dabbled a little bit in photography. I was in all the conferences and things like that. But as a photographer, I was broke. I didn't have the money to hire someone to do my website and my branding. So I went to YouTube University, taught myself how to do my logo, my website, my marketing materials, all of that. And then before you know it, people are like, well, Britt, who did your website? And then I'm like, man, do I have another business? So at the time I combined photography and design, and I started to work with creative entrepreneurs, just building their brands from the ground up, right? And so I did that for a hot 5-6 years. And a lot of people who became familiar with my brand, it was because of my design work. They didn't know about the wedding planning and all of that, you know? But slowly but surely, what I realized was that I was building beautiful brands for people. But then when we get to launch and they would have no clue what to do, they'd be like, all right, beautiful website, but then now they're stuck or they're afraid to push it out to the market. And I was like, why is this happening? And what I realized is that they didn't have strategy. They didn't have, that definition of their business. And I call that your brand definition, your what, why, how, and who. And sometimes your who not. They didn't know that. And so I was like, all right, Britney, take a step back and really formulate a process that teaches people how to push forward confidently, knowing what they're all about. And so that's how I got into this whole coaching and consulting world. And that's the Britney that you know today.
And that, and I find that really amazing because our journeys, and when I say our journeys as a creative and a creative entrepreneurs, I kind of call us, it's not linear. It's very much like, things happen and the more that you open yourself up to the gifts that you have and the passions that you have, the more you understand exactly and you get clarity in terms of exactly what you should be doing or you're supposed to be doing. Sure. And I find with your brand specifically, right away, whether it's with an Instagram post, a Twitter quote, or just jumping on the first page of your website, it's very, very instinctual where you know exactly what Britney's about. You know that she has vibe, you know that she has a little bit of spunk, but she knows who she is, right? She's calibrated the culture of her brand and her company in a place and in a way where there's no sort of second guessing. And I think that's really, really interesting to me. What are some of the key things that you've seen throughout the years that are kind of like challenges for certain creatives in terms of being able to really cultivate, calibrate, and understand what their brand is and how to execute
Sure. Let me tell you, and this is something that we all learn on the way, and that I myself am still learning too. And it's, I used to think that I had to be what I thought people wanted me to be, right? So especially when you have this whole social world, right? You're able to, kind of curate what your life looks like, And so what I used to be like, oh man, look at her pictures, look at this, look at that. Okay, this is what the people want. They want, you got to be looking like this lifestyle, like, oh, let me, I was doing all this extra stuff, right? And I felt like, I was really denying who I truly am and pulling all of Britney into the brand, right? And so I find one of the mistakes is that we get kind of lost in this whole, I guess, curated fake world of social and build a business based off of what we think others are wanting from us instead of really tapping in deep to who we are and bringing that to the table, right? So that's definitely a big mistake. Also, just trying to be everything to everybody. I'm a people pleaser at heart. And so I've always wanted people like, I want you to be happy and this and that. And so I want to do this and it's just like, no, like, at the end of the day, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I bring to the table. And if we vibe, let's do this work together. But if not, that's okay too, right? So I definitely will say the whole people pleasing can come in the way. So it's really important that you tap into who you are and understand that there is a client or a customer out there designated specifically for you, and not to build something based off of, how it's being done already. I tell my people, disrupt the pattern,
Can you because I have so many questions, but that last thing that you just said, like just sparked all these wires in my head. Please kind of decompress that a little bit or deconstruct that. When you say disrupt the pattern, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like for me, I knew that as a coach, for example, how other people were doing it, right? So it's really important to really tap into your market, right? Do some competitor analysis. Like, okay, what is this person's strengths, their weaknesses? What are like the gaps that my uniqueness can fill, right? And so when I say disrupt the pattern, what I mean is like, it's okay to not do it the way that others do it. That's pretty much what I'm saying, right? For me, if it didn't look like, this whole polished brand and I didn't have to speak like, branding is when you when I be like, y'all, listen, let me keep it real with you. Branding is when, if I can bring that flavor and be myself, that's disrupting the pattern because I don't feel like I have to fit into a mold of how entrepreneurship should look. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So really just, and being okay with it, like being okay with doing things your way.
Yeah, no, that's dope. That's dope. Now we're talking about doing things your way, and we were also talking about sort of that dichotomy of, really understanding how to approach your target clients, how to market yourself as a creative. That leads to, and also being a people pleaser. I found, especially at the beginning of my career, and sometimes now, that I want to please people, that I want everybody to like me, right? And I want you to kind of talk a little bit about it, or if you can explain a little bit about how do you fight those urges to just please everybody, and balance that with the value aspect, understanding and knowing your value, because I think those are tied almost together. And maybe the third component of that would be, the idea of, if knowing your value, fighting off that sort of people pleasing, and then also knowing that there's a client out there that will identify your value and pay you your value, right? Like that's something that I know that many creatives struggle with. We don't struggle with the creative part. We struggle with the, am I valuable enough part,
Yeah. That's a mindset thing though, And so just recently, I posted and I said, we're afraid to like brag on ourselves. For some reason, we feel like bragging on ourselves comes off, very cocky and arrogant. And it's okay to like dig deep and say, no, like I have education in this. I have experience in this. Here are the results that I produce for my clients. Here are the people that, I've retained that come back, over and over again for my services. And so sometimes you got to hype yourself up to know like, hey, man, like look at all of my bragging rights. And this is what makes me like the juice, And so for me, I think it's really a matter of, and no, it's not gonna be perfect. You're not going to always have a great day like, oh, I'm doing this today, but at the end of the day, you got to remind yourself what you bring to the table and keep that at the forefront, right? And you got to remember those clients who raved about you, who poured back into you. What I used to do, and I still do it, anytime I get like fly comments or, results that my clients share with me, I screenshot it, I put it in my phone, and I have a album of all of the compliments. So anytime that I feel like, somebody is trying to like, come at me or make me feel like, I go in the album, I was like, no, girl, look what this person said. And what this person said, oh no. And what this person, and I remind myself, as it relates to people pleasing, like, yeah, it's totally a struggle. And so the one thing I'm going to say is remind yourself of a time where you felt like you went over the top and the person still didn't show that they were grateful or, they still didn't understand it, and remind yourself how you felt in that moment. And I'm like, I have a couple of those situations. And so that reminds me of like, okay, no, Brittany, you're going into the pattern and the behavior that you were before. Yeah. And this is how that turned out for you. And you don't want to go back down there, That's
good. And honestly, I'm gonna steal that whole library thing. I'm gonna steal every single one of that. Actually, you know what? Sometimes I just go on my Google reviews and I read them. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm good.
So listen, you have a saying that I really want you to kind of talk about a little bit, or I want to talk about when you say go from winging your business to winning in business. Yeah. Let's get this work. What do you mean by that? I love that. I kind of know what you mean, but I would love for you to kind of express that a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So clearly I gave you my story. So I told you I started as wedding planner, as photographer, and all the times I just sort of jumped into it, never even thinking about what it looked like long term down the road, what my goals were, what was my mission, what was my vision. I never really sat to think through those things. And so I was sort of this entrepreneur who was always doing trial and error. Like, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of this, see if that worked, not that work, do a little bit of that, and not really put like a roadmap together that said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Here's my signature way I'm going to do it. Here's who I'm going to give it to. Here's how I'm going to measure how I was successful. I never did any of that. And so when I say wing in business, I realized that as I came into this world of coaching and consulting, that there were a lot of entrepreneurs who never had a plan. And I find that it's been quite normal, actually. I would say like 85 to 90% of the people that come to me have never planned out their business from the ground up, ever, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I say winging it, that means you're just going with the flow. You have no clue that you woke up this morning and you have no clue how you're moving. You're just, oh, maybe I'll answer a little bit of emails. Maybe I might put a post up on social. Maybe I might sell a package, but don't have something that you're going back to say, okay, nope, here's my goal. Here's the date that I put on that. Here's why I want to accomplish that goal. So winging it means you just going with the flow and you have no strategy and no processes of how you're going to move. But when you get those things in place, that's when you can win. That's when you can go back to the roadmap and say, all right, this is what I told myself and I'm moving accordingly.
That's amazing. Everything you said there was so on point. And I think it resonates with me because I know for the first 5 to 7 years of my business, I was just kind of doing it like whatever, sometimes I'd get great clients. Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I'd make a lot of money. Sometimes I wouldn't. And that would just be ebbs and flows. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives get into business because they have a passion or a great idea or whatever else. Or for some right now, it's trendy. It's great to be to say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, but they don't have any sort of true north. They don't have any sort of reference point to say, okay, I'm going this direction based upon these criteria. So I think that that's really, really crucial. And I remember a few weeks ago, it's probably been about maybe a few months ago, you put a post up and you kind of blurred out a whole bunch of stuff, but you just said, I have my 7-figure goal or 6-figure or some kind of craziness. And you're already planning 2021, probably all the way to 2022. And I said, this girl is serious. I said, she ain't playing with nobody. But I said, but that's the level of intentionality I think we need to really focus in on, especially in the middle of a pandemic. How do you pivot? What's your plan B? What's other ways or other streams of income to allow you to hit your revenue goals? Those are all things that we're scared of talking about because maybe we didn't go to school for it. Maybe we don't have mentorship, right? We don't have a Britney in our lives, right? So I think these are all really, really good conversations and reasons why we need to reach out to individuals like yourself to be able to get that structure in our lives. So anyways, before I digress, I have a really, really... tell me a little bit about what drives you.
Oh, man, that's such a good question. There are many things that drive me. First off, I'm going to tell you, one of the things I always say and what I share with my daughter, she's 8, is that success doesn't look one way, right? Because I was the girl, I'm the only child growing up, and go to college, get a good degree, get a good job, work your way up, be responsible. And that's sort of the track that I was on. So, I was at the White House and Pentagon and doing what on the outside looked so amazing, right? But in the inside, I was unfulfilled. I didn't feel like this is where my life was supposed to be, but I was doing what I was told, right? And so when I realized that, I had this nagging feeling in my gut that meant I'm an entrepreneur. I'm meant to do and create for other people, but on my own terms. I had to realize that the way that I was taught was it was okay for me to walk away from that way, right? And so what drives me is showing the generations before and behind, that are behind and ahead of me, all of the generations, that you can move however you want to move and still achieve success as it is defined by you. And so what drives me is showing everyone that, my daughter, the people behind me, my mom, my grandmother, things like that. And so for sure that. And the other thing is I have fear of complacency, so I don't like to be comfortable. If I don't feel some fire under my butt or something, now I'm like, man, girl, you're a little comfortable. What? Maybe you need to throw a little splash of something, So I the fear of that, and not, I don't want to die and be like, man, I did have this one thing that I really wanted, So I will say that, just making sure that that I'm not complacent, that definitely drives me to continue to push and build.
So, I mean, you're doing all these things and you're so passionate, you're driven, you have a team. We haven't even spoken about your whole agency, your creative agency company. That's a whole nother thing for another day. I feel like we need to have a part 2 of this conversation because I honestly just want to talk to you about your creative work because I'm in love with all of that stuff and the team looks really cool. The culture looks amazing. But I want to talk a little bit about you're married, you have a husband, you have 2 kids, and you're a business person, you're a CEO, you're a brand extraordinaire expert, and you're how do you manage all that time? How do you balance that? And I understand, at least from my perspective, I think that there's no such thing as balance, but I'll throw it out to you. How do you balance it? How do you make it work?
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's really about communication first off in the household. Like I really have this goal, but this is where I can show up and things like that. I was talking to one of my clients recently, and she said, I don't believe in balance, I believe in rhythm. And when she said that, I was like, ooh, it really hit. And so it's not necessarily like, you can be great at all things at the same time. I don't believe that's a possibility, right? But you can have a flow of, when your hot spot hits for entrepreneurship, when your hot spot hits for being the mom and the wife, but making sure you do dedicate the time in those different areas, like the vacation that my husband and I just had, me making sure I have mommy daughter days with my daughter, available as well, me making sure that, when people can book on my calendar, for calls and things like that the times that I really just need to myself are blocked off, So it's really kind of just being intentional in those spaces to make sure that I still can show up as my best self in all areas when I can.
Yeah, no, that's great. No. So let's talk a little bit about, I have this other question. This is more of a curveball, but I want to know your thoughts on this. So profit, marketing, branding, connections, product, or service. Yeah. What are your top three?
Man, my three, and I don't know if you said all of them, my three are business, branding, marketing. Okay. And I teach everything in that way. So business, that's the foundation, that's the planning, that's the strategy. Branding, that's the experience, that's the visuals. And then marketing, that's telling people about it. So that's the social media, that's the podcast, the blog, whatever the case may be. And so when it comes to this business of mine and the business of the people that I work with, we are always killing those three areas, business, branding, and marketing.
So talk to me. Let's have an honest conversation about like challenges, because obviously, like we said before, nothing's linear. Nothing's just going straight up, right? I'm losing weight right now, and I've lost, quite a few pounds, more than
I've noticed. I'm like, all right, show
out. You can see it over the whole Instagram. But, one of the things I realized was that losing weight is not a linear pattern. It's not just downwards. It's down, flat, up, down. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like business is the same way. Yeah. What were some of the lessons, the hard lessons that you had to learn in business in your journey that has really shaped the fiber of who you are right now?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm definitely going to say that when I say success doesn't look one way, like that definitely has shaped who I am. It allows me to move in my business and create what I want my life to look like, in a sense. So that for sure. But to realize, like, when I have down days, it's okay to have those down days. It's okay to be like, I can't show up today, and to be able to articulate that to whoever needs to hear, whether that's clients, whether that's my support system here at home. I think that we think that we always have to be on, and we don't. You don't. You can have time to say, like, all right, I really need a break so that I can regroup, so I can bring my best self to the table. In terms of like the ups and downs. Like, man, I have so many stories, but what helps me is to tap in and to realize that every time I experienced something that was challenging, it built my character as an entrepreneur. I say it builds your entrepreneurial muscle, right? And it allows you to say, man, I remember when, it was horrible, but now I'm talking about it in the past, right? I have situations where even in my brand, I talk about the time that I was cussed out by a vendor, the time that, the bride was walking down the aisle and I lost her dad who had a sickness, and I had to go find the dad before I have so many stories where I failed, or where I, fell on my face in a sense, but each one of those built me to now, right? To where I can talk to creative entrepreneurs and I can tell them, like, it ain't perfect. It ain't pretty, and they connect with that because I'm being transparent. I'm honest about my journey. Yeah. So everyone's going to have those ups and downs for sure.
No, that's dope. No, I can agree with you. Like, there's so many moments where I'm just like, they sucked in the moment, but there were so many lessons I learned from it that I still to this day practice with. Right. So how has 2020 reshaped you and I love that. No, I have to give her. I just said, how has 2020? And the girl was like, all right, child, please, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh, for real. So, the one thing that I feel is important is I'm so transparent right now in this question for sure. So online, everyone sees the put together Britney, the brand is polished, she knows the way, and she's your girl, she's the coach, right? But when this pandemic hit, first off, I didn't take it serious at first because I didn't even know, like, my brain was just like, what is this? Okay, well, we got to wear a mask, like, huh? Okay. But I freaked out. I was the girl who I had the plan. I know my direction, but I legit freaked out. And so in that, I'm being very transparent. I was like, okay, I got to come up with education. I got to do this. I got to bring the prices down. And I was really like moving so fast. And mind you, I made a lot of money during this pandemic, but I made money that was not according to my plan because I freaked. Right. This is the plant-based girl talking to you guys for real. Right. And so in that, I realized like my people ride for me. So that's one thing I learned for sure. Like my people ride, like it didn't matter. They were like, we freaking with you, Brittany. Where are you going? Where you go? We with you, and I really appreciated that, But what it has done is it allows me to see that you have to be confident in what you already know. What I already knew was that I'm on track for my 7-figure year. I already knew that, And so the pandemic has shaped me in knowing, like, Brittany, be confident in what you've planned and stick to the plan. It's okay. Things are going to happen, and you do have to adjust, but you planned for a reason, right? So this year has really been insane. A lot of stuff has changed. You got to do things virtually that you would do in person. And I literally was just about to do my conference in November.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was starting the promotion for it and had to pull that back. And so I will say this, it does also shape you to be able to learn to pivot and to change when you need to, and to know that your people will rock with you regardless,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I went through the same thing. It was kind of like because I travel a lot for my work because I'm creating content for clients and things of that nature. And everything stopped, right? So you can't travel anywhere, right? Yeah. And on top of that, a lot of my clients live or reside in the United States, and I'm in Canada. So it was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And I had to like immediately pivot to a lot more virtual training classes and creating courses and things of that nature. So I can totally understand what that meant. But the good thing that you said was like, when you have a plan, you can change the plan, but at least you have a plan. You're not like grasping for straws. You can say, okay, well, this may be able to work, but I may need to alter it or customize it, change it. You know what I mean? But it can still work. The premise, the basic premise is still functional, right? Within the current climate that we're in. So that's really dope. What about, tell me a little bit about some of your high level key goals for 2021. I mean, obviously you have specific ones that you obviously want to keep to yourself, but what are some of the things that you're excited about for 2021?
Yeah, you know what? First off, anytime you rub your hands, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be like this is gonna be the question of the year. Like, I'm like, oh God, what is it? So to be honest with you, coming into 2021, I'm doing a micro pivot, as my clients like to call it, in the sense of this whole 2019, 2020, I was really targeting that more newbie to mid-level entrepreneur when it comes to coaching. And I realized that even folks that are more established have been yearning to work with me in a sense. And so I'm really interested in, digging deeper into a market that I haven't tapped into yet. And that's that established entrepreneur who is pivoting, who's transitioning, right? And so that's the person who has been in business maybe 7 to 10 years. They've already generated 6 figures, right? But now they're in a state of wanting to pivot. And I'm going to teach that pivot in a micro pivot. Is it micro? Is it a macro pivot? Or is it a mega pivot? And so I told you my story where, I was the wedding planner. I moved to photography. Then I was doing web and graphic design. And now I'm into strategy. And every time I pivoted, my revenue increased, my results increased, my retention increased every time, right? And I noticed that I have a way of successfully pivoting and people still trusting me. My credibility and reputation still remaining intact, right? And so in this coming year of 2021, it's really a matter of me targeting that pivoting entrepreneur who's afraid to pivot because they think that their coins and their credibility is going to be compromised. So you'll see a little bit. I'm not like, I'm not going to tell you all the programs.
Absolutely.
But no. New programs coming. I am, scaling, and I really am like that 7-figure goal is like, I'm like this. And when I say something out my mouth, like I'm grinding to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that there's something specific that you said that's really, really key, is that the reason why we're stressing about branding and understanding branding, here's the thing. There's a lot of great people out there, a lot of creative people out there that do dope work. But dope work is not going to keep you happy, keep you employed, keep you getting the opportunities that you may deserve or you may be qualified for. I always say this. I have a saying: people buy from people they like, not the best people, right?
Yeah,
the people
true.
They like, they trust, that they understand that, hey, listen, the person said they're going to deliver on X and Y, they're going to deliver X and Y on Z date, right? And I think that you said something so key in the sense of you were able to pivot, and not just pivot, but to do mega pivots to different industries and different areas because of the fact that people trusted you as a brand and not just the business. And there's a distinct difference between business and brand, right? And I think that is so key, and something I'm learning as well is that, Tristan Barracks is not a function of just what he does. It's a function of who I am, what I represent, the vibe, the way I treat you, the communication and the language that I use to communicate who I am as a person, as a being, as an organization with my team. And I think a lot of creatives get stuck on but I do this really well. I can design really well, or I can take a picture really well. And a lot of people can do that. You know what I mean? What makes you different? What makes you distinctly different that makes me want to trust you more with my coin and with my value and with my time and with my business than the next person? And I think that's where you really can, where you're really filling in that void, which is exciting. Yeah.
For sure.
Man, so we're almost done. We kind of blew through those questions. That's kind of amazing.
I want to say really quick. I want to talk about core gift, right? So when it comes to pivoting, for me, right, my core gift is I always have the ability to translate or transform ideas into tangible outcomes. So I have the ability, any idea, it can be brought to me and I can visually manifest it in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And so whether I was wedding planning, the bride has an idea, we pull that wedding out with the vision of that wedding together. Mm-hmm. A client comes to me that wants photography services. They have an idea. I push that visual out as a photographer. The web and graphic design, or entrepreneur has an idea. We push it out in the sense of a logo, a website, a visual package, right? And so knowing that when you're pivoting, if you can tap into what your core gift is, that core gift can be translated into anything that you decide to do. So when it comes to positioning your expertise, it's really positioning your core gift to showcase, I always have the ability to do this one thing regardless. So if tomorrow I decide I want to be an interior designer, I can translate the idea of what it means to design a home, an office space, and it be a real thing, right? A vision, a visual. And so tap into the core gift, not necessarily the skill.
I feel like that makes so much sense, and I feel like one of those old church mothers, go ahead, girl, you better preach now. All right, slap your neighbor and say. No, honestly, it's just gems upon gems. I want to kind of finish off our conversation by two things. Number one, I want you to be able to plug your services, plug where we can kind of get a hold of you, get more information from you about your services. But beyond that, what do you want to say to that entrepreneur that got devastated this year? You know what I mean? They had plans. Maybe they had plans in their mind. They had aspirations. They had really great contracts, and everything kind of got dismantled. And now they're trying to figure things out again. Maybe they're thinking, you know what, maybe this business, this entrepreneurial journey, this creative journey is not for me. Maybe I should just do the 9-to-5. Although I know I'm not really designed for a 9-to-5. Maybe I should just get the job that makes sense and makes money, but doesn't make me happy and make me feel fulfilled. Yeah. What's your message to them, Britney?
Yeah, I'm honestly going to say, one, I'm not going to be that whole cliche girl that's everything happens for a reason. And, but to be honest with you, the one thing that I always share is that nobody can do what you do the way that you do it. Right. And so, you might have fallen on your face, and maybe revenue didn't, come in the way that you expected. But at the end of the day, if you can tap into the fact that, man, regardless, nobody can do what you do the way that you do it, and focus on the delivery of that, I feel like, man, you'll find yourself a little bit more boosted and wanting to move forward, you know? Also to say, like, it doesn't have to be picture perfect right now. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, this is a whole nother conversation, but I just feel like in social, we gotta be more caring and kind in the sense of really showing people what it really is, you know, because when we're putting out this fake image of perfection, people are moving to build businesses and all of that based off of our falsehood. And that's not fair, you know? So I think it's really important that those who might have felt like this wasn't my year to realize that the things that you see online, don't take it for face value, because it's not always really what it is, you know? Behind the scenes, you know, I might be looking like, oh yeah, but behind the scenes, I'm dealing with my marriage, or I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. And we are people and we are human. And it's important that you ain't gotta tell your business, but you're being upfront when it was a tough day, you know?
That's really, really good. I think there's so many things there, but one of the things I can truly say is like, with this whole pandemic, I realized how thin the veneer of realism is when it comes to social media. And I had to pull back myself for my own sanity, for my own mental health, and for my own focus. Like, I had to kind of ask myself the question of, what do I really want? You know what I mean? Like, and is this going to be the fuel that's going to propel me into where I want to go? Right. And obviously social media is not all bad. It's designed in a way to be able to generate revenue, to generate, you know, ways for people to understand what you do and to build your brand that way. But if it's the end all be all, which a lot of people use it as, or an indicator of your marker of your success, then I think that distorts the reality of the situation. Right now, it looks like I'm in an amazing, perfectly lit room, and I'm actually in the middle of dust and cardboard and a mess because I'm renovating my house. Nobody knows that, right? But if I turn the camera, you'll see wires over here, you'll see unfinished flooring, but we don't show that, right? We show the background looking good, looking lit, right? Tristan smiling with his glasses. But we don't really, you know, and that's something that, again, and I don't know how this happened, but when I was like, I constantly start to see you posting, but there was a level of authenticity, even with your smiling picture and beautiful background and great, you know, post, there was a level of authenticity that transferred through the digital sort of mess and noise that allowed me to feel like, okay, there's something about Britney that's like a real one. Like she doesn't, yes, she does what she, you know, a lot of people do in terms of like posting and you know, you have your quotes, but like there's something else there, you know what I mean? When you dig deeper, when you read the posts, when you really dissect what she's doing, she's building a culture of authenticity through success, you know, or success through authenticity, I should say, that is not the norm. You know what I mean? It's kind of counterculture to a lot of what we see on social media. So I just want to commend you on that, because that's dope. Thank you. A lot of people don't do that. Just keep on doing it. Whatever your secret sauce is, whatever you keep on eating, whatever shea butter you use on your skin, keep on doing it. All right.
Yes. You know, I always tell people I really want, when they meet me in person, that they're getting what they feel that they get on social. That's a fear of mine, that someone would meet me and say, oh my gosh, she's totally not what she puts on to be, because that's happened to me and it's sad, you know? And so I want people to really connect with me in that way, so that I can just show up as myself and I don't have to feel like I gotta, all right, now I gotta meet people. Like, no, like that's what you get. And I want to make sure that's what you feel all the time, you know?
So, Britney, with that, I want you to be able to make your plug for any sort of things that myself or any audience members need to know about how we can get a hold of you, how we can get into your programs, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I'm just going to keep it simple. You can always visit me online at BritneyJeanine.com. And definitely follow me on Instagram at Britney Jeanine, especially for Tuesdays. I do Tell It Tuesday every Tuesday, where I'm bringing you a biz branding or marketing tip, where I'm keeping it real. People call it my tough love, spunky approach. So definitely, you know, follow me online. I'm Britney Jeanine everywhere: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, But the hot spot is my website and Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. That's where the fire comes. Every day the fire's there, okay? Whatever scheduling program you're using is wonderful. It's working miracles, okay? But listen, again, Britney, I just want to say I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, to share a little bit about your story. And we only hope the best for you, not only just for 2020, but 2021 and beyond. Bless up to your family, to your husband, to your daughter, to your young baby boy, and just keep on crushing it. All right?
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Talk to you later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Creative to Creative podcast with Tristan Barracks. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. If you would like to be a guest, please email us at info@tristanbarracks.com. Peace.